everybody. Welcome to the show, the Court of Public Opinion. Happy Monday. I hope you had a very nice weekend. Welcome to the new week. And boy, there's enough to talk about. Really. It's cold. We're going through this sort of... It's not even winter yet. Is it? Pete, it's not. No.
Next week.
You mean next week?
Well, what's it?
29th. We're a few days away.
Tuesday, something like that.
Something like that. Anyway, May the 29th, ladies and gentlemen. 1886. Pharmacist John Pemberton begins to advertise his patented medicine. It was called, you probably guessed it. Anyone here know? No? Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola. It solved everything, most efficacious. But back in those days, I think it was 99% cocaine. Yeah, Coca-Cola. It changed the look of Christmas. It's shaped American culture. It's an amazing product, mostly driven probably not so much by the product or its earlier addictive qualities, or they alleged it had addictive qualities, but it was billed in the beginning as a health tonic. I've got a prize 7-inch 45 record of some absolutely wonderful classic Coca-Cola ads, and I don't think, I've only got one copy of it. I've never ever seen another. And believe me, I keep looking because stuff like that's really interesting and valuable. But Elvis Presley does a version of the song. You know, do you remember it? Things go better with Coca-Cola. Things go better with Coke. Fun, food and people all go better with Coca-Cola. There was one with Elvis Presley. Diana Ross did one. Some amazing people. Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. I got to dig that out. Pete, have you ever heard it?
No.
It is fantastic. It's more than a commercial, and I think really they released that, and people would play it on the air. I know I did. People would play it on the air because it was just such wonderful music. Roy Orbison did a version of Things Go Better with Coca-Cola. Free advertising, folks. Nothing like it. Who else? What else happened? Charles Strite, he files a patent for the automatic pop-up toaster. Golly, that was 1919. Bob Hope, English-born American actor, comedian, entertainer, nice guy too, born in London, died in 2003, well into his 80s, nearly 90s. He was born in 1903. The trademark escalator was patented by Chris, well, I don't know, it was Otis Elevators Company anyway, but Chris was the guy who did it. Edmund Hillary, later Sir Edmund Hillary, not too much later, because in 1953 he actually, we got a picture of him here too, yeah, over here. Sir Edmund Hillary, he never called himself Sir or Edmund, he called himself Ed, as you can see on that autograph picture to me. But anyway, he dedicated his climbing, or as he put it, knocking off the bastard, to Queen Elizabeth, because she became queen, and he dedicated his achievement to her, which was a lovely thought. Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay, the first to reach the summit of Mount Everest as part of a British expedition, 1953, and, interestingly enough, 1914, Tenzing Norgay, Tibetan climber, who was the first to reach the summit. He actually was there before Ed, Mount Everest in 1953. The date of birth is not known, not exactly known, but he celebrated it on the 29th. Born in either northeastern Nepal or Tibet, He died in 1986. What else can I tell you? I've done my 5 minutes. 5 minutes of dates. That's not long enough. I can't do this. Do you know when I was a DN, they used to have, by virtue of the management's attempt to control me.
Impossible.
No, they had a thing called the Nordic Motors clock. And when my commercials for Nordic Motors went over 5 minutes, the bell would ring. How impertinent! For God's sake! Am I slaving away for a client? All right, it goes over 30 seconds. So what? What else can I tell you? Look, Michael Jackson attempts to buy the Elephant Man's remains in 1987. Bing Crosby records Irving Berlin's White Christmas, the world's biggest selling record, by the way. That was in 1942. John F. Kennedy, 35th President of the United States, Senator for Massachusetts. He was born in Brookline, Massachusetts. He died in 1963, but born 1917. Here's something interesting. 2019, transgender no longer classified as a mental health illness by the World Health Organization as it was up until 2019. Pete's got something really interesting to show you. We'll run it at the end of the segment, maybe, about a woman who confronts her local school because of the stupidity, all of the woke, politically correct transgender nonsense. It's interesting. You may have seen it before, but I'll just throw in this while we're talking about it. A leading brand of sanitary products has been accused of dehumanizing women. Dehumanizing women by referring to girls as bodies with female sex organs in a pamphlet explaining puberty to children. What is this world we are creating? God help us. The guidance produced by Always, that's the name of the company, also faced charges that it was attempting to erase women by avoiding the use of the word girls. The pamphlets are included in what they call puberty kits, containing period pads and panty liners, and they send those around to schools, girls' schools, but they aren't going to mention the word girl. No. The 22-page booklet entitled Puberty and Confidence Guide for Everyone details both female and male puberty developments, but at no point mentions boys or girls, instead using the word people or person. No wonder kids are confused, for God's sake. Anyway, have a look at this little bit that we'll run at the end of today's show. I'm sorry to hear that Adelaide Health is in the sort of crisis that it is in at the moment. I'm talking about ramping. And I mentioned to the other day 80 beds at Queen Elizabeth Hospital closed, no explanation. And yet we are short of hospital beds. No, there's chaos. I don't think they honestly know what they're doing. And particularly with 41,000 new COVID cases just this week. 41,000 COVID cases. I've got to read you this because it is a kind of a warning of something that is coming, which we should be prepared for. I will find it. Here we go. Health officials have issued a warning, a worrying warning to the world. It's not an exaggeration to say that the Disease X event is just around the corner. the head of the World Health Organization has warned that the world must prepare for the next pandemic, which could be even deadlier than the COVID-19 pandemic. In a meeting of the World Health Assembly in Geneva, Switzerland on Monday, the Director General sounded an alarm that the COVID-19 pandemic is far from over. The threat of another virulent virus emerging that will cause a new surge of disease and death remains, and the threat of another pandemic emerging with even deadlier potential remains even stronger. But I don't know, all the warnings in the world is not going to help us. I don't know exactly how we can protect ourselves from stuff like that. Some good news, however. TripAdvisor, they hand out the awards, distinctions, if you like, for hotels and venues, big and small. Well, we've got another gong here in South Australia, and it's a very important one. TripAdvisor is a very big organisation. But the best small hotel in the world, the best small hotel in the world, is the beautiful historic Mount Lofty House in the Adelaide Hills. Congratulations, you don't get that kind of award and you don't have that sort of excellence without a hell of a lot of work and dedication and very good people. And some more good news, this thing called CAR T-cell therapy, which you might have read about or heard about. They are saying that this really is the holy grail. CAR T-cell therapy. It can cure 80% of most of the serious cancers. Immunotherapy, the holy grail. But not just for cancer, it's a cure for allergies, even diabetes. It involves genetic engineering. But it will relieve the world of one of the most deadly killers we've ever known. We talked about it last week, the incident involving the 95-year-old lady in a nursing home and her subsequent injuries caused by a fall after having been tasered. It has resulted in her death, the death of Claire Nowland. A police officer has already been suspended with charges laid, will probably have those charges added too. On top of this, on Thursday of last week comes another incident. A police officer, this is just last Thursday, has fatally shot a man armed with a knife. During an incident on Sydney's lower North Shore, officers were called to North Willoughby, where just before 11:30 on Thursday morning, after reports that a man had been seen waving a knife around, the two responding officers confronted the man, allegedly armed with two knives. He was then fatally shot by one of the constables. Yes, of course, it will be investigated. Everything involving the discharge of a police firearm is heavily scrutinised. But perhaps there is something wrong with the training they get. I mean, it's very hard for us to put ourselves in the position of a police officer in circumstances like this. But you see, I get the feeling that shooting a person should be the last resort, where often it seems to be the first. Don't they have people, psychologists, police psychologists, who could be dispatched to situations like this? I'm not saying that it is easy or safe, but I just don't think the police need the odium that comes from looking like they are trigger happy. We'll see what happens out of that report. 78 South Australian organisations have come out and rallied in Adelaide last week. They came together to demonstrate against the government's decision, which I applauded, I don't know about you, but I applauded, to impose fines and jail sentences on people who disrupt public life and inconvenience society. In the demonstration that I saw on Friday night on the news, which I imagine was pretty representative of what was going on, there were a lot of red flags. Well, we could have predicted that, I suppose. If you try demonstrating and disrupting traffic and life in a communist country, signified by the red flag, of course, you won't get a jail sentence, you'll get a firing squad. And of course there were green flags, because they're all part of the same agenda, to try and destroy society as we know it. Forgive me, that's my cynical view, while saying everyone has a right to demonstrate. Of course he has. We need probably more people demonstrating. I might sometimes argue about over what the demonstrations are held. These people, however, continue, while trying to take society apart, they continue to take advantage of everything that it provides. How many of those people I saw last week in that demonstration had a job? How many was a contributor? How many was a lifter, not a leaner? As I say, everyone has a right to free speech, all of that. But you don't have the right to inconvenience people and jam the traffic, disrupt people's freedom to move around. You just don't have the right. And there should be consequences for it. And I hope that the Labor government will stick to its guns, and they've got the numbers. It's passed through the lower house. They've got the numbers in the upper house. Let's see if it passes through. Just one more, well, perhaps a couple of quick things. One is that Tina Turner has died. Tina Turner has gone. There's so many others in that era. She was 83. She died in her home in Switzerland with her family and friends. Great talent. A good life, lived well. Lots of ups and downs, of course. Funnily enough, her first... What did you say, Peter, first record back was? Dancer?
My first favourite one of hers was River Deep Mountain High.
River Deep Mountain High, yeah. But there are so many wonderful, powerful songs. That woman was remarkably dynamic. But the very first album after Ike and Tina Turner split up was a country song. Private Dancer, yeah. But before Private Dancer came out, there was a country album. She was obviously toying with the idea of singing country songs. I would have loved to have heard that. I never did. But speaking of country music, and I'll leave you before our little visit to the classroom. Gee, I like this woman, this mother. Anyway, Joy McKean has also gone to God. She was in her 90s, wife of Slim Dusty. Not only wrote his songs, but managed his career. Lovely, lovely lady. Let's have a little look at the classroom and sort of when parents have had enough and they decide to dress up and confront the nonsense that you and I would call woke. See you tomorrow. I'm Jeremy Cordo. Peter and I'll be back. Believe in yourself. Bye for now.
Hello, my name is Lindsay Graham, and I am a cat. Meow, meow. I'm not a woman dressed as a cat. I am a cat. By show of hands, I'm curious, how many of you believe and confess that I'm a cat? Great. By show of hands, I'm curious, how many of you believe that your child or a child from this school would believe that I'm actually a cat? No one. You are right. Why? Because you are not stupid, and these children are not stupid. Truth prevails over imagination. Reality exists. Discernment is innate and something we are biologically wired to have. One look at me and you know this to be true. I am a woman posing as a cat. You may also think correctly that if I truly believe I'm a cat, I have a mental disorder. If I suffer from a mental disorder, and if I am unable to discern reality, am I safe to be around children? Would you put me in charge of making critical decisions about the safety and well-being of children and about the direction of their education when I cannot even discern truth from fiction? Confession. I'm not actually a cat, guys, just because I say I am. You've not agreed to or committed to addressing me as a cat simply because I demand it. No tail, whiskers, or outfit makes me a cat, just like no lipstick, high heels, or long hair makes him a man, a woman. It is just as biologically impossible for me to become a cat as it is for a man to be a woman. And you have one job as members of this school board, and it's defined as this. School board members are responsible for broad, forward-thinking, minute analysis and decisive action in all areas that affect students and staff in their schools. I ask you, do you believe that the actions of a grown man playing dress-up as a woman affects the students and staff positively or negatively? A public school is not the place for social experiments in altered realities or gender ideologies. It is not the place to celebrate a grown man with a mental illness, dressing as a woman, and teaching kids lies. Children come to school to learn facts and truths about reality, including unchanging biological truths about science and nature, not to learn that they can change biological realities and become anything they want in the name of diversity. What you're actually doing is worse than just lying to our kids. You're forcing them to be participants in your lie, in your charade. You're forcing them to deny what they see with their eyes, and you're forcing them to speak lies. I ask you again, am I a cat? And if you say no, then the mindset must be aligned with your discernment across the board. By allowing a falsity to be displayed and paraded around the school, you teach children that truth is not existent, facts are not real, and biology is a lie. You fail at your job, your only job, by confusing children and teaching them untruths and to coddle a grown man playing dress up as a woman. If you were to address me as a cat right now, it's as ridiculous as when you say Miss Bixler and a grown man's voice comes thundering over the...
Thank you.